Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. February 2nd, 2023, Las Vegas. Las Vegas PD responded to a call from a hotel employee who said that they had received a call from a man who said he was coming to kill them. The man also used numerous racial slurs. When the police arrived, the racist crank caller called back. This time, the hotel employee put the call on speakerphone so the police could hear it. The police report said that the caller immediately called the victim a racial slur and stated he was the Grand Master. The officer who made out the report said that he saw a name on the caller ID that read Hunter Holman. When the officer picked up the phone and announced he was the police, Holman began to deny everything, claiming his name was actually Fred and that he was in Little Rock, Arkansas. In the course of the ensuing investigation, the police found out that this person had also been responsible for an incident at another area hotel. In September of last year, Hunter Holman had been a guest at an extended stay. When he checked out, the manager reportedly found a goat's head in the freezer, along with an extensive collection of knives in Holman's former apartment. I guess they should be glad they didn't find any dead bodies. The manager told police that Holman made several threatening phone calls to them, and when he got the impression that the manager was white, Holman declared himself the king of the KKK and invited the manager to join him. So, what started off as an investigation of a racist and threatening crank call soon became more than that, but it was about to get more strange still. Because just 9 days ago, on February 22nd, the Las Vegas police received a notice from the Arkansas Division of the FBI. The FBI in Arkansas said that on February 9th of this year, Hunter Holman had threatened to kill black people at a fitness center with an AR-15. It was after this notice that the Las Vegas police finally decided to arrest Hunter Holman on hate bias crime charges. There's been some reports that he may face federal charges as well, but with Kristen Clark on the job, he's as good as free. And of course, being a white supremacist thug, you won't be surprised to learn that this wasn't the first time he's broken the law. In May 2022, Hunter Holman got himself fired from a call center in Las Vegas. He had been there only a month. The owner of the call center said that Holman claimed to be Jesus and a member of the FBI. Then, on June 2nd, 2022, Holman came back to the call center and made several racially motivated threats to a former employee, spewing racial slurs and death threats. He held his fingers in the shape of a gun. He threatened to sexually assault the manager and kill her. He then got into his car and spun donuts in the parking lot before the police could arrive. Holman also sent text messages threatening to sexually assault the wives and mothers of his former co-workers. Now, white supremacist vermin love to lurk around these parts and claim that, well, that's all just words, and clearly this guy seems to be mentally unwell. That's what they say for every white supremacist thug who commits an act of violence. Oh, they're all crazy. Something that never gets extended to black people. If you're black, it's just a matter of, oh, you're silly or there's nothing really wrong with you. But the second that we start talking about some white supremacist, all of a sudden in kicks the white media narrative. Well, clearly they must be crazy because why would someone of that demographic do such a thing? His racial slurs shouldn't mean anything, the white supremacist troll will say, because it's not like he's out there attacking random black people or anything. Well, you won't be surprised to learn that on July 9th, 2022, Las Vegas police responded to a call about a man who had reportedly been stabbed in front of a hotel. The stabbing victim in this case was Hunter Holman. He got himself stabbed after he had tried to run over an entire black family with his car. The youngest member of this black family he tried to kill was an 8-month-old baby. He had started off by screaming racial slurs at this family from his car as they were walking down the sidewalk. They tried to ignore him, but he refused to be ignored and tried to hit them with his car. The family he tried to kill barely managed to get out of the way of his vehicle when he attempted to kill them. That's when Holman got out of his car and physically attacked them. The father of the family was the one who defended his family, stabbing the assailant and forcing the white supremacist thug to flee. Around 10:24 p.m., police received a call from Holman that he had been stabbed. Of course, being a white supremacist, he tried to claim that the family, an entire family, had been walking in the road and blocking his right of way, but witnesses, of course, immediately put the lie to that one. He told police that he was having a bad day. I'm not making that up. He actually said that. But he didn't need to do any white-splaining to get his neck out of the noose on this one, because after all, he's got genetic immunity from law. The Las Vegas police didn't even bother to arrest this thug for trying to kill an entire black family until 3 weeks later on July 29th. They charged him with assault with the use of a deadly weapon motivated by bias or hatred toward a victim, as well as child abuse or neglect. But he's got genetic immunity from law, so you can guess what happened next. He was released from jail the very next day. Now, he was supposed to have some sort of court hearing scheduled, but that still hasn't happened, and it's not going to until May 24th of this year. Did I mention that this incident happened back in the summer of last year? The racists out in Sin City have been trying to slow walk this one. They were hoping that they could quietly dispose of this one. After all, it wasn't a national story. In fact, the white media out there didn't even want it to be a local story. But now that the word's gotten out, they have to at least pretend to be doing something about him finally, but we're not fooled. This creep has been a one-man hate crime wave, leaving goats' heads at hotels, threatening and then attempting to kill an entire black family, including an 8-month-old baby, threatening people at his job, threatening to rape members of their family, random strangers, and planning to carry out a mass killing of black people. We'll continue with the moment of truth in just a moment, but first, a word from the official sponsor of Black Empowerment, Power Tools. There's no telling when something's going to come up, so make sure you carry your power tools at all times. You never know when you're going to need to bring the hammer down, or when you'll have some trash that needs to be blown away, or some obstacle that requires cutting down. Don't get caught empty-handed. Keep your hammer close by. Keep that leaf blower at the ready, and always carry your steel. Power Tools, because no matter what your day job or side hustle may be, there's no excuse for not being ready to put in some work. Now, he's been arrested for this latest incident at the hotel, but, you guessed it, he has genetic immunity from law, so he was given yet another bail and is back on the loose after having been released from custody. He's supposed to be back in court on March 30th for these latest charges. But why does he keep getting released time after time after time? All of these violent incidents that he's been found clearly to have committed, but they just keep giving him bail no matter what. The FBI tips police off that this guy is planning to carry out a mass shooting. The police arrest him, charge him, and then promptly let him go. As I keep telling you, these mass killings don't just happen by accident. They're allowed to happen because the people carrying it out are being protected by the courts and the police. This is what happens when racial privilege is the law of the land. The problem isn't that he's not committing any crimes. The problem isn't that he hasn't done anything serious enough to warrant being arrested or charged. The problem is that in this country, you have the police and the courts who are just as racist as these white supremacist thugs. You need look no further than Kyle Rittenhouse for proof on that one. So you have Dylan Roof, Gregory Bush. He was that white supremacist who tried to carry out a Dylan Roof-style attack at a black church in Kentucky. But when he found the doors to the church locked, he instead went up the road to Kroger's and killed 2 random black people there instead. And Peyton Gendron, who murdered 10 black people at a supermarket in Buffalo. And now you have this. Congress hasn't passed a black hate crimes bill. They haven't even tried to. They've passed one for Asians, and they passed a gay marriage law, claiming that it had something to do with interracial, read black marriages as well. But when it comes to writing laws specifically to protect black people and to punish those who harm us or who seek to harm us, all of a sudden the wheels of government grind to a halt. And absolutely nobody in the government's trying to do anything about it. Your congressional black talkers do nothing about it because they're part of the problem. They've got their government jobs. As far as they're concerned, they're in the club. They're in part of the Inside the Beltway Club. They fully understand the policy of racially targeting and neglect of the black community, and they sold their souls for a parking spot in D.C. And so long as white power continues to let these turncoat traitors have some crumbs from its table, they'll gladly cheerlead for Democrats to do nothing for us, and they'll sit on their hands while the white right targets and attacks us. Well, that father out in Vegas, he showed that there are some black people who are not going to sit back and desperately hope that someone's going to come and save them. The law allows you to defend yourself, and that black father in D.C. did exactly that. Some white supremacist calls himself screaming slurs and threats and then tries to kill you and your family, you have a right and an obligation to protect yourself and them. That's why that black father and his family were fine after that race soldier's violent attack, and Hunter Holman was in the hospital. The courts have shown us time and again that it's no coincidence at all or an accident that these violent thugs don't get punished. The authorities approve of their actions. That's why they keep letting them do it. This guy has been putting up all kinds of red flags for over a year now. You didn't need to wait until he threatened to carry out a mass killing to know that he's a violent punk. He showed exactly what he was last year. There is absolutely no excuse for this violent creep to still be on the loose. When he tried to murder an entire family, that should have been the end of it. That should have made huge headlines nationwide then and there. Instead, the white media barely reported on it. Even in Vegas, they barely mentioned it. They treated it as a non-event. There's a clear and undeniable unwritten policy by the white media that when black people are targeted by hate criminals, don't report on it. Unless it's something that's a little bit too egregious or too big to be covered up. If it's something that leaks out and you just can't contain it, well, go ahead and do a one and done on it. But also be sure to let people know that the hate criminal is sympathetic, well, he's got a family, or, well, he had a good job. Neighbors say that he wasn't so bad. Well, he might have some mental issues. We have to be sure to cast sympathy in his direction. Now, if Hunter Holman had been a black man who had tried to run over a white family, does anyone seriously believe that he would be on the streets at all, or that he ever would have seen the outside of a prison cell after he had been arrested? He wouldn't have been offered bail at all. In fact, he wouldn't have made it that far, because if he had been threatening people at a call center, they would have arrested him for that, and he still wouldn't be on the streets. The criminal class in America carry out their ruthless lawlessness because they're allowed to, they're encouraged to. The truth is that the police and these judges are every bit as racist as the Hunter Holmans and the Dylan Roofs and the Peyton Gendrons and the Kyle Rittenhouses. We always find out time after time after time, without exception, that these racist mass shooters always have very close ties to the police, that they have friends who are police, family members who are police, that police get caught praising them and echoing their anti-black racist sentiments. That train is never late. And the same goes here. So understand that these violent thugs are being allowed to roam the streets and will continue to be allowed to roam the streets until they finally kill a black person, because that's the objective. That's the reason that they're allowed to remain on the streets. This is the reality. And what's also reality is that you have a right to protect yourself. So don't gamble when it comes to ensuring your safety from some white supremacist assault. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Detroit Beauty Supply, David Green, Gregory Franklin, Imani Metendaji, and Williams. Salute to them, and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.